James Douglas Morrison was born on December the 8th, 1943. He had a younger sister, Robin, and a younger brother, Andrew. It was in 1947, when Morrison was 3 to 4 years old, that a major event occurred in his life. An event he would hearken back to in several Doors songs. And those who have seen the Doors movie, which starred Val Kilmer playing Morrison, will know what I'm talking about here. In 1947, when Morrison was a young boy, he witnessed a car accident in the desert, where a truck had overturned and some Native Americans were lying injured on the side of the road. Morrison would describe this incident as the most formative event of his life. He refers to the incident in the Doors song Peace Frog and makes repeated references to it in imagery in his songs and poetry. You see, Morrison believed that day that the spirits of the ghosts of those dead Indians leaped into his soul, and that he was like a sponge ready to sit there and absorb it. So this traffic accident did occur. However, Morrison's family don't recall it happening quite in the way Jim told it. Morrison's father is quoted as saying, "We went by several Indians. It did make an impression on him. He always thought about that crying Indian. This was his first experience with death, and it stuck with him throughout the rest of his life and the rest of his career with the Doors." Jim Morrison and keyboardist Ray Manzarek were the founding members for the Doors. They were college buddies and had attended UCLA together, and it was about a month after graduation that the two had a chance encounter on Venice Beach. He was impressed with Morrison's poetry and lyrics, and the two decided they should form a band. And with the addition of guitarist Robbie Krieger and drummer John Densmore, the Doors were formed. Morrison would record 6 studio albums with the Doors, and this was done in a relatively short span of time, with their debut being released in 1967, and by 1971, the 6th and final album Morrison would record with his band, LA Woman. So in March of 1971, after recording LA Woman, Morrison decided he would join longtime girlfriend Pamela Corson in Paris. In letters to friends, he described going alone for long walks through the city. During this time, he shaved his beard and lost some of the weight he had gained in previous months. During his time in Paris, he called band member John Densmore to ask him how LA Woman was doing commercially. Densmore was the last band member to ever speak to him. It was at 6 a.m. on July 3rd, 1971, when Jim Morrison was found dead in the bathtub of the apartment by his girlfriend Pamela Corson. According to the official police report, Jim and Pamela had gone to the movies the previous evening. When they got back, they listened to music to about 2:30 a.m. At close to 3:30 a.m., Pamela was woken up by Jim's noisy breathing. She wanted to call a doctor, but Jim refused and said he would go have a bath instead. Now, while he was taking the bath, a friend of Pamela's stated that he was vomiting. Jim said he felt strange but not ill, and told Pamela to go to bed. At 6 in the morning, Pamela woke up, but Jim was not beside her, and this is when she went into the bathroom and found his lifeless body in the bathtub. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure. Some even speculate that Morrison had died hours earlier at a local nightclub of a drug overdose and was moved to the bathtub at a later time. There were even eyewitness accounts to this, if you believe that or not. However, since no autopsy was performed, these allegations could never be substantiated. Pamela Corson said that Morrison's last words as he was bathing were, "Pam, are you still there?" Morrison's death came 2 years after To the Day of Rolling Stones guitarist Brian Jones, and approximately 9 months after the deaths of Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin, all of whom died at the age of 27. And sadly, Pamela Corson, Jim's longtime girlfriend, who was set to be his wife, died just 3 years later in 1974. She also was only 27 years old. Morrison was laid to rest at the Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, France. And kind of the strange thing about the funeral, it was very small, like only 5 to 10 people attended. It was over almost before it began, and this was because apparently Pamela wanted to keep everything very low-key. And it was 20 years after his death that Morrison's parents had an inscription put on his tombstone written in Greek. And that translated to "true to his own destiny" or "true to his own spirit."
He went his own way, and he was true to his own ambition, to his own aspirations.
However, there still are many conspiracy theories out there about Morrison's death, and some will even tell you that he's still alive, out there somewhere.
I hope at about age 120, with a sense of humor and a nice, comfortable bed with... No, I wouldn't want anybody around. I just want to quietly drift off. I think science has a chance in our lifetime to conquer death. I think it's very possible.
The Doors went on to record 2 further albums without Jim Morrison. That was Other Voices in 1971 and Full Circle in 1972. This is where the band were a 3-piece, and you had Ray Manzarek and Robbie Krieger sharing the vocal duties. And the music used here were songs that Jim Morrison ultimately would have sung on for the next Doors albums if he had have lived. And in 1978, An American Prayer was released. This was the 9th and final studio album from the band, and on this album you have Morrison's spoken word over the Doors' music. Some great albums there from the Doors, an amazing collection of songs. Just sadly there, Jim Morrison passing away far too early. We'll end it there, guys. Thanks heaps for tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.